Welcome to Movie Recall. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2022 movie Meet Cute. It's time to recall. Let's get started, turn on subtitles, and spoilers ahead. Meet Cute begins with Sheila walking down the streets in a good mood, and she enters a pub. She sits by the bar at the pub, staring closely at Gary across the room. At the moment, the bartender comes and tells her to approach the guy because he hasn't seen her, and she takes the guy's advice. She approaches him and asks if he wants anything to drink. When Sheila and Gary order the drinks, they both order the same. Then Sheila tells him about her likes and dislikes. They talk about sports, where Gary tells her that he was never close to his father and never played catch in childhood. That's why he doesn't like sports. The conversation soon turns into some old-fashioned flirtation. Then Sheila tells Gary that she's from the future and she time-traveled to meet him, and Gary laughs it out. After that, Sheila said she was hungry and asked if Gary would like to join her. She followed this before deciding to go out for dinner together. Then Sheila and Gary leave the pub. Sheila asks him if they should go to the Indian restaurant near the block, and she says the food there is amazing. Gary tells her that he hasn't ever eaten in an Indian restaurant and thinks she would like the food. They eventually find themselves at an Indian restaurant. When they enter the restaurant, she knows everything: what to order, which food will be good, and which drink and food will be bad. She tells Gary about the drinks, what to order, what not to order, until she knows everything. She knows every server's name, but everyone looks at Sheila very weirdly, rarely because she knows everything and nobody knows her. At the dinner table, Sheila explains time traveling and how she manages to travel in the future. Gary asks her how she's done time traveling, and she tells him she was a regular 9-to-5 office employee. Still, at random, she went to take a manicure, and there she saw a machine that looked like a tanning machine, but in real life, it was time traveling. Gary then asks her what she has done with her present self, and she lies about it. After dinner, Sheila tells Gary it is time for ice cream, and she knows a perfect place. Then she takes Gary to an ice cream truck, serving a surprisingly tasty flavor dubbed Childhood Dreams. Then they went on a ferry ride, and Sheila pointed at a building and told him she used to live in that apartment. They joked about a few things and then went to another pub to drink. While drinking, Sheila tells Gary that she must confess something and says that she has killed her present self. After some drinks, they dance around the streets and walk to the bridge. Gary tells her that it is very late and they should go home and meet some other day. This is where Gary freaks out and knows something is off about Sheila because she tells him that this isn't the first time they are meeting and that in the future, Gary will die, which makes Gary feel very weird, and he leaves the place. Looking at the two of them, you'd think it was their first date. When learning new facts about each other, there is just the proper amount of embarrassment and reluctance. However, this meet cute isn't as simple or easy as it seems. Another day starts with Sheila walking down the road and getting hit by a car, and in the car is the future Sheila. The clock ticks again, and every detail is repeated. Sheila again describes being a time traveler, having arrived 24 hours in the future. And, according to her, they've already had this date. She had gone to a nail salon the day before, intending to appear lovely before she killed herself. But she had discovered a time machine and planned to utilize it with the assistance of her nail woman, June. However, when she went back in time, she met Gary, and the date made her extremely happy, happier than she had been in a long time. That's why she kept returning to that day again over and over, because she imagined she had discovered a vacuum in which her pleasure would be unaffected by anything else. There would be no misery, rage, or disappointment, and she could be joyful in this small slice of paradise that was her time with Gary. That's why she didn't go the following day. The moment in time was going to be her reality for as long as she could manage it. Even a perfectly cooked steak begins tasting like trash if you eat it every day, Sheila says. A joke is humorous the first few times, but loses its appeal after a while. Sheila begins to see flaws in her happiness plan. She's weary of hearing the same jokes again and over, and keeps in mind that although Gary still believes he is meeting Sheila for the first time, she has known him for much longer. Sheila wants to get to know him deeper, but she isn't prepared to go the following day for that, and she's had enough of the mind-numbing repetition. After one dispute with him, she begins chatting to Amit, the manager of the Indian restaurant, since she is weary of hearing the same things. She feels she has discovered the answer to her dilemma mid-conversation. All she has to do is alter Gary. Amit tells her that changing an individual is impossible, which we agree with, but Sheila is much too old to believe that. The next day, she runs into a different Gary. While the last one was lovely and friendly, this one is a stubborn startup founder who is more concerned with himself than others. Sheila begins talking about becoming a time traveler again, but Gary isn't as interested as he was. When she says that, he questions her about what she means. That's when she informs him that after all of her time with him, she has narrowed down the precise traumas that have molded him as a person and gone back in time to repair them. He recognized her as his Uncle Charlie, with whom he used to play fetch as a child, and was also in charge of Tatiana. Gary informs her that she has gone insane. He'd known Uncle Charlie for 3 years, which meant Sheila had been traveling through time for 3 years. This is a new degree of obsession. He informs her after a big disagreement that she can't mold other people's lives for herself. Gary suddenly becomes more interested in sports, more confident, and dressed formally. In addition, rather than working as a freelance graphic designer, he has a modest startup. He's making the decisions and managing the evening, offering Sheila something fresh and exciting. It was almost as if he knew exactly what he needed to do, like a lovely guy on a first date. Sheila has made such modifications to make him ideal for her. June disclosed that she could go back in time to any moment in the past, but only for 24 hours before returning to the salon. Sheila is depressed and vows to undo what she has done. June tells her something similar at the manicure shop. She informs her that the combination of good and terrible events shapes individuals, and she has no authority to influence them. Humans are molded by one another and by the acts they do in the world. Sheila comprehends but refuses to listen. She travels back in time and undoes her intervention in Gary's life. Back in her life, she goes on that date again, and this time she finds Gary as his former self. But this time, even he notices that something is off. He is entirely distracted by his sensation of déjà vu and tells Sheila so, causing her to expose the time travel aspect. Sheila keeps talking about the same things, how she knows everything and about time traveling, which makes Gary uncomfortable, and he gets angry and tells Sheila to stop talking about the future. He feels like she and he are both trapped in the time zone, and when she talks about the things happening and how she knows everything, including what she is saying, Gary is confused about how Sheila knows exactly where to go, what to order, and how to end sentences, and like a normal human, he gets weird feelings about it. Sheila tells him to believe in her, and what she is telling him is 100% true. She and he have been meeting for 6 months, doing the same things, and the next day, Sheila remembers it all, but Gary doesn't know what she is talking about. When Sheila sees Gary upset over what she is saying, she hugs him, but Gary doesn't feel anything. Gary tells her if she keeps coming back and repeating the same day again and again, she needs to stop seeing Gary and maybe see some change and do something different. So Sheila says that her time traveling has stopped the time to 1 day back, and this keeps on happening, and the fact that she cannot do anything about it, and she is scared to kill herself. Hearing everything that Sheila tells Gary, he gets mad and starts to feel weird being with her. He tells her that she needs to let him go and that this situation is sick, and she has become obsessed with this lifestyle. Gary then shouts at her that he will go to the nail salon and meet June, or the lady who talked her into going into the future. He further says he will travel back in the past to stop Sheila from time traveling. Sheila starts crying and tells him not to do such foolish things because it can only ruin her already ruined life. She tells him that he is the only thing that's kept her going for this long. If it weren't for him, she would have committed suicide, and she is scared. So seeing Sheila cry about everything, Gary tells her that they will meet the next day at the same point. The next day they quarrel again, but this time he goes to the nail shop personally to try to solve whatever is wrong with Sheila. He goes to June and asks her if she can help him with Sheila and how he can solve the problem. First June says no, but when she sees that Gary knows about the time machine, she tells him everything, and he goes back in time to fix things. He inadvertently travels back to when Sheila was only about 4 to 5 years old. Her mother misidentifies him as the cable man and requests that he repair the television. What was Sheila doing at the time? She attempts to fit a square peg into a round hole and cries when she fails. Gary calms her and reminds her that it's good to be a bit dirty sometimes, something she has been expressing to him the whole time. Sheila had mentioned the cable man a few times since he had been quite kind to her as a youngster. It turned out to be Gary himself. Was that childhood memory prompted her to seek Gary for her ideal night? While Gary is traveling back in time, Sheila arrives at the nail salon to inform June that she has finished using the machine and will be traveling ahead. Or perhaps she'll commit suicide. When Gary returns to his time, he seems happy that he fixed her, but June tells Gary that he missed her. June assures him that she is the same as before and that he must flee to catch her. Gary discovers her on the verge of jumping from the bridge. He assures her that he has seen the future and June knows how to fix time, so she shouldn't flinch. He draws her back and encourages her to trust the future. It would be chaotic, but it is worth staying for. He tells her that he will see her in the future, which is just what Sheila needs to hear. Gary goes away, but when he returns, he finds Sheila, indicating that she is resolved to trust the future. She's not going to use the time machine again and is presumably afraid of the future. However, her time-traveling experience has taught her that happiness will never be perfect. She needs to discover it in little times throughout her life, and she will, maybe with the help of Gary. Even when she tries to get him to go, he remains with her and makes it clear that he is willing to wait for the whole night if that is what it takes. He claims that June was the one who enlightened him to the future, which, contrary to what she thinks, is fantastic and includes her. He confidently goes off the bridge where she begs for evidence, knowing that she will pursue him. She also does this. They stay at the bridge all night long. Sheila doesn't jump, Gary doesn't go home, and that's how the night passes. What happens differently is that this time, Gary knows Sheila when he sees her in the morning. He knows that this is the girl he loves and who he wants to be with. Gary asks her again where she used to live and they laugh about it. They decide to go on a stroll once again, but this time it is different since they enter the future together. The end. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.